I came home early that Friday evening, hoping to surprise Lisa with dinner at our favorite restaurant. The front door creaked open, and I called out, expecting her cheerful voice in response. Instead, silence greeted me. Confusion gnawed at my gut as I walked down the hallway toward our bedroom. Maybe she's taking a nap, I thought, trying to dispel the uneasy feeling growing within me. But as I neared the bedroom door, faint sounds reached my ears, muted whispers, and the rustle of sheets. My heart pounded as I pushed the door open. What I saw shattered my world in an instant. There, on our bed, tangled in the sheets, were Lisa and Mark. Lisa's eyes widened in shock, and Mark's face contorted with guilt as they scrambled to cover themselves. The air thickened with betrayal, suffocating me as I stood frozen in the doorway. "Jack," Lisa whispered, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and desperation. I can explain." Words failed me. Anger surged through my veins, hot and consuming. My mind raced, struggling to comprehend the scene before me. How could she? How could he? "Explain?" My voice cracked, filled with a rawness I didn't recognize. "What is there to explain?" Lisa's lips moved, forming words that I couldn't bear to hear. Mark's eyes pleaded silently, but there was no mercy in my gaze. I backed away, shaking my head in disbelief. The bedroom door clicked shut behind me as I stumbled into the hallway. The house felt unfamiliar, tainted by their betrayal. My hands trembled as I reached for my phone, instinctively scrolling through messages and photos that now held a sinister meaning. Every memory, every shared moment, seemed tainted, distorted by their deceit. How long had this been going on? How could I have been so blind? I sank onto the living room couch, the weight of their betrayal pressing down on me like a leaden cloak. Tears threatened, but I refused to let them fall. Anger burned brighter, a fierce determination taking root. They wouldn't get away with this. I drove for hours that night, the city lights blurring into streaks as I sped through the streets with no destination in mind. The image of Lisa and Mark entwined in our bed played on a loop in my head, each repetition stoking the fire of my rage. Eventually, I pulled over into an empty parking lot, the silence of the night broken only by the hum of the engine and my own ragged breaths. I stared blankly through the windshield, my mind struggling to process the reality of what I had just witnessed. How could everything I thought I knew about my life have been a lie? The anger that had driven me away from the house began to ebb, leaving a hollow ache in its place. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white, trying to ground myself in the physical sensation to keep from being swept away by the torrent of emotions. Betrayed, humiliated, confused. The words felt inadequate to describe the depth of my pain. Lisa and I had been together for over 2 decades, and Mark had been my best friend for nearly as long. We had shared holidays, celebrated milestones, and supported each other through life's ups and downs. I had trusted them implicitly, never suspecting the darkness that lurked beneath the surface of our relationships. My phone buzzed incessantly with messages and calls from Lisa, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. What could she possibly say to make this right? The idea of listening to her excuses, her justifications, felt unbearable. Instead, I scrolled through our photos, each one a testament to the life we had built together. Smiling faces at family gatherings, vacations in picturesque locations, quiet moments at home, each image now felt like a mockery of my naivety. How long had she been deceiving me? And how had I been so blind to the signs? Hours passed in a daze, the enormity of the betrayal settling over me like a suffocating blanket. I felt like a stranger in my own life, disconnected from the person I had been just a few hours ago. The love and trust I had once felt for Lisa and Mark had been twisted into something unrecognizable, poisoned by their betrayal. Eventually, the exhaustion of the emotional upheaval began to take its toll. I drove home, the familiar streets now seeming alien and hostile. The house loomed in the darkness, a silent witness to the devastation that had unfolded within its walls. I stumbled inside, my body heavy with fatigue and despair. I couldn't bring myself to return to our bedroom, the scene of the betrayal still too fresh and raw. Instead, I collapsed onto the couch, curling into myself as if to shield against the pain. Sleep was a long time coming, and when it finally did, it was fitful and filled with nightmares. Visions of Lisa and Mark haunted my dreams, their whispers of deceit echoing in my mind. Morning came, But the weight of the previous night's events lingered, a constant reminder of the shattered life I now faced. I woke up with a start, the events of the previous night crashing back into my consciousness. The sun filtered through the blinds, casting long shadows across the living room. I sat up slowly, every muscle aching, as if my body were protesting against the emotional turmoil I was enduring. The house was eerily quiet. I could hear the faint sounds of traffic outside, but inside, everything was still. I knew Lisa was here. Her car was in the driveway when I got back. I steeled myself, knowing that I couldn't avoid her forever. I needed answers, even if I dreaded what they might be. I found her in the kitchen, sitting at the table with her head in her hands. She looked up when I entered, her eyes red and swollen from crying. For a moment, there was only silence between us, a gulf of betrayal that seemed impossible to bridge. "Jack," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm so sorry." "Sorry?" I echoed, my voice trembling with suppressed rage. "Sorry for what, Lisa? For sleeping with my best friend? For destroying our marriage? For making a fool out of me?" She flinched at my words, tears streaming down her face. "It was a mistake," she said, her voice breaking. "I never meant for it to happen. It just did." "That's it?" I said, my voice rising. "That's all you have to say? It just happened? You expect me to believe that?" "Jack, please," she pleaded. "Let me explain." I took a deep breath, trying to rein in my anger. "Fine," I said, my voice cold. "Explain." She took a shaky breath, her hands trembling as she spoke. "It started a few months ago," she began. "Mark and I were talking and it escalated. I know it was wrong, but I felt so lost, so disconnected. You were always working, always busy. I felt invisible, Jack. Don't you dare put this on me," I snapped. "Don't you dare blame me for your infidelity. I worked hard to provide for us, to give us a good life, and this is how you repay me?" "I'm not blaming you," she said, her voice desperate. "I'm just trying to explain how it happened. It was a mistake, a terrible mistake. I regret it more than you can imagine." "A mistake," I repeated, shaking my head. "A mistake that went on for months, with my best friend. Do you have any idea how that feels?" She looked down, unable to meet my gaze. "I know I've hurt you," she said quietly. "And I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I love you, Jack. I want to make this right." "Make it right?" I laughed bitterly. "How do you propose we do that? Do you think we can just go back to the way things were? Pretend this never happened?" "I don't know," she admitted, "but I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Therapy, counseling, anything. I don't want to lose you." I stared at her, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. Part of me wanted to believe her, to hope that we could somehow salvage our marriage. But the wound was too fresh, the betrayal too deep. "We'll see," I said finally, my voice hard. "But don't think for a second that this is over. You and Mark will pay for what you've done." Her face crumpled, but I couldn't find it in myself to care. The rage that had been simmering within me was now a cold, determined resolve. I turned and walked away, leaving her sobbing at the kitchen table. This was far from over. The confrontation had only just begun. The days that followed were a blur of conflicting emotions. Anger burned hot and bright, but underneath it all was a deep, overwhelming sadness. The life I had known, the future I had envisioned with Lisa, had been shattered irreparably. I moved through the motions of daily life like a ghost, numb to everything around me. Lisa's apologies echoed in my mind, but they brought me no comfort. Each word, each plea for forgiveness, only served to reopen the wound of betrayal. Friends and family reached out, offering support and sympathy, but their words fell on deaf ears. How could they understand the magnitude of what I was going through? How could anyone comprehend the depth of the betrayal I had experienced? Sleep became a fleeting luxury, elusive and restless. Dreams were haunted by images of Lisa and Mark together, their laughter and whispered confidences a cruel mockery of the life we had shared. I woke each morning with a sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach, the weight of their betrayal pressing down on me like a physical force. At work, I struggled to focus, my mind constantly returning to the events that had torn my world apart. Colleagues offered concerned looks and gentle inquiries, but I brushed them off with curt nods and forced smiles. How could I explain the turmoil raging inside me? How could I articulate the devastation of losing not just my wife, but my best friend as well? Nights were the worst. The silence of the empty house echoed with the memories of happier times. Quiet dinners, lazy Sunday mornings, whispered promises in the dark. Now those memories felt tainted, poisoned by the knowledge of Lisa's infidelity. I avoided our bedroom, unable to bear the thought of sleeping in the same bed where they had betrayed me. Instead, I sought refuge on the couch, surrounded by the remnants of a life that no longer made sense. In quieter moments, when the anger and sadness momentarily subsided, doubt crept in. Had I missed the signs? Were there moments when I could have intervened, when I could have stopped this from happening? Guilt gnawed at me, a relentless companion in the midst of my despair. But beneath the turmoil, a seed of determination began to take root. I refused to be a victim. I refused to let their betrayal define me. I didn't know how yet, but I vowed to find a way to make them pay for what they had done. The emotional fallout of their betrayal would not break me. It would fuel me, driving me forward in search of justice and closure. And as the days stretched into weeks, that determination grew stronger, a beacon of resolve in the darkness that had engulfed my life. As the initial shock and emotional turmoil began to settle, a cold, calculating resolve took its place. I refused to wallow in self-pity or drown in the depths of despair. No, I would turn their betrayal into a weapon, a tool for vengeance that would leave them reeling. I started by gathering evidence, meticulously, methodically. Every text message, every email, every photograph that documented their affair became a piece of the puzzle. I stored them away in a secure folder, a digital arsenal that would soon become my ammunition. Legal preparations followed swiftly. I consulted with a divorce lawyer, laying out the details of their betrayal and the evidence I had collected. The lawyer's eyes widened as I recounted the extent of Lisa and Mark's deception, but they nodded approvingly at my thoroughness. "We have a strong case," the lawyer assured me. "Infidelity can be a decisive factor in divorce proceedings, especially coupled with the evidence you've gathered." I nodded grimly, my jaw clenched in determination. This wasn't just about ending my marriage. It was about holding Lisa and Mark accountable for their actions. They had destroyed our trust, shattered our family, and now they would face the consequences. But legal proceedings were only part of my plan. I wanted more than just a divorce. I wanted them to feel the same pain, the same humiliation that they had inflicted upon me. I plotted a confrontation, a public exposure that would strip away their facades and reveal the truth to everyone who had ever trusted them. I knew the perfect setting. An upcoming party where mutual friends and acquaintances would be present, unsuspecting witnesses to the downfall of Lisa and Mark. I crafted my strategy carefully, considering every detail. I would confront them with the evidence in front of everyone, forcing them to face the consequences of their betrayal in the harsh light of public scrutiny. There would be no hiding from the truth, no more lies or deceit. As I mapped out my revenge, a sense of grim satisfaction settled over me. This wasn't just about evening the score. It was about reclaiming my dignity, restoring justice to a situation that had left me feeling powerless. The days leading up to the party were tense, filled with a mix of anticipation and dread. I rehearsed my speech, ensuring every word carried the weight of their betrayal. I reviewed the evidence again and again, committing every detail to memory. But amidst the planning and preparation, a small voice of doubt lingered in the back of my mind. Was this truly the right path? Would revenge bring me the closure I sought, or would it only deepen the wounds already inflicted? I pushed the doubts aside, steeling myself against uncertainty. This was my chance to take control, to turn the tables on those who had thoughtlessly shattered my world. And as the day of reckoning drew near, I steeled myself for the confrontation that would change everything. With a sense of purpose driving me forward, I delved deeper into gathering evidence of Lisa and Mark's betrayal. Each piece I uncovered felt like another step towards justice, a validation of the gut-wrenching truth I had discovered that fateful evening. I began with the obvious: text messages and emails exchanged between them. The digital trail was damning, filled with coded language and innuendos that left no doubt about the nature of their relationship. I sifted through conversations that had once seemed innocuous, now twisted by the knowledge of their affair. Photos followed next, innocent snapshots that now held sinister implications. Pictures of Lisa and Mark together at social gatherings, their smiles and gestures taking on new meanings in light of their deceit. I printed each one, creating a physical dossier that documented the extent of their betrayal. It wasn't just about proving their infidelity. It was about building a case that would ensure they faced consequences for their actions. I consulted with a forensic expert to ensure the authenticity of the evidence, preserving chain of custody and integrity in case it was needed in legal proceedings. The process was painstaking and emotionally draining. Each piece of evidence I uncovered felt like another dagger to the heart, reopening wounds that had yet to heal. But I persevered, driven by a fierce determination to hold Lisa and Mark accountable for the devastation they had wrought. In moments of doubt, I reminded myself of their betrayal, their lies, their deception, their utter disregard for the vows we had once held sacred. I owed it to myself to see this through, to ensure that justice was served. As the evidence mounted, so did my resolve. I knew I couldn't undo the past, couldn't erase the pain they had caused, but I could make sure they never forgot the consequences of their actions. The final piece of evidence, a particularly damning text exchange, solidified my case. I held it in my hands, feeling the weight of my determination as I prepared for the next phase of my plan. Legal proceedings loomed on the horizon, but first, there was one more step to take: the public confrontation that would expose their betrayal to the world. Armed with a mountain of evidence and a burning desire for justice, I marched into the office of a seasoned divorce lawyer recommended by a trusted friend. The walls of the firm's reception area seemed to close in around me, amplifying the tension that coiled within. I was greeted by a sharp-eyed receptionist who glanced at me with a mix of curiosity and sympathy. I stated my purpose tersely, and within moments I found myself seated in a plush office, facing a lawyer whose demeanor exuded confidence and competence. "Mr. Thompson," the lawyer began, her voice calm but firm, "I understand you have a matter of urgency regarding your marriage. Please, tell me what brings you here today." I wasted no time, laying out the sordid details of Lisa's infidelity with Mark, punctuating my account with exhibits of the evidence I had meticulously compiled. The lawyer's eyebrows rose imperceptibly as she reviewed each piece, her expression growing increasingly serious. "I see," she murmured, tapping her pen thoughtfully against her chin. "This is indeed a challenging situation, Mr. Thompson. However, you've done an excellent job in gathering substantial evidence." Her words were a balm to my wounded soul, validating the painstaking efforts I had undertaken in the pursuit of justice. I nodded, my jaw set with determination. "I want to proceed with divorce proceedings," I declared, my voice steady despite the turmoil roiling beneath the surface. "I want to ensure that Lisa and Mark face the consequences of their actions." The lawyer nodded in understanding, her gaze unwavering. "Understandable," she replied. "Given the evidence you've presented, we have a strong case for infidelity. I will draft the necessary legal documents and initiate proceedings promptly." As she outlined the legal process, I absorbed every detail with a focused intensity. Divorce papers, asset division, custody considerations, the logistics of unraveling a marriage that had once been my anchor now became the means to sever ties irrevocably. "Additionally," the lawyer continued, "we will seek compensation for damages caused by the breach of trust. Emotional distress and punitive measures can be pursued depending on the court's discretion." The prospect of holding Lisa and Mark financially accountable for their betrayal added another layer to my resolve. They would pay, not just emotionally but materially, for the pain they had inflicted upon me. With a firm handshake and a sense of grim satisfaction, I left the lawyer's office. The legal wheels were in motion, and I felt a flicker of relief amidst the turmoil. The next phase of my plan awaited, a public confrontation that would expose their betrayal to the world. The days leading up to the party were tense with anticipation and meticulous planning. I chose the setting carefully, a mutual friend's upscale home, where Lisa and Mark would feel at ease, unsuspecting of the storm brewing on the horizon. I arranged every detail with precision, ensuring that the stage was set for maximum impact. The guest list included friends and acquaintances who had been oblivious to the betrayal unfolding behind closed doors. They would bear witness to the unveiling of Lisa and Mark's deception. On the day of the party, I dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that conveyed a sense of composed determination. My heart pounded with a mixture of nerves and anticipation as I drove to the venue, the weight of what was to come settling heavily on my shoulders. Arriving early, I mingled with guests, masking my inner turmoil with polite conversation and forced smiles. The atmosphere buzzed with laughter and chatter, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within me. As the evening progressed, I kept a watchful eye on Lisa and Mark, observing their interactions with other guests. They moved through the crowd with a veneer of normalcy, oblivious to the storm clouds gathering around them. Finally, the moment I had been waiting for arrived. The guests began to gather in the living room, drawn by my discreet invitation to witness a special presentation. Whispers of curiosity filled the air as I took center stage, my heart hammering in my chest. With a deep breath, I projected the slideshow onto a large screen, images flickering to life in vivid detail. Faces turned toward the screen, curiosity giving way to shock and disbelief as the damning evidence of Lisa and Mark's affair unfolded before their eyes. Text messages, intimate photographs, timestamps that chronicled their betrayal, all laid bare for everyone to see. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the room, mingling with the stunned silence that followed each revelation. Lisa's face drained of color, her eyes wide with horror as she realized the extent of the exposure. Mark stood frozen beside her, his expression a mask of guilt and shame. The facade they had carefully constructed crumbled under the weight of their deceit. "You see," I began, my voice steady despite the tumult of emotions raging within me. "This is what betrayal looks like. This is what happens when trust is broken." I recounted the events that had led me to this moment, each word measured and deliberate. Anger burned hot beneath the surface, but I channeled it into a controlled fury, determined to deliver justice in the public arena. The room was charged with tension, emotions running high as friends and acquaintances processed the shocking revelations. Some faces registered sympathy, others shock or disbelief. Whispers of support and condemnation filled the room, a cacophony of reactions to the unraveling drama. As the slideshow reached its conclusion, I turned to Lisa and Mark, my gaze unyielding. "You've destroyed everything we had," I said quietly, my voice carrying the weight of years of betrayal. "And now, you'll face the consequences." The air crackled with unresolved tension as the gravity of my words sank in. The trap had been set, and now Lisa and Mark stood exposed, their lives forever changed by the consequences of their actions. The aftermath of the slideshow was a whirlwind of emotions and reactions. The room buzzed with stunned silence and whispered conversations as guests processed the shocking revelations laid bare before them. Faces reflected a spectrum of emotions: disbelief, sympathy, anger, and betrayal. Lisa and Mark stood at the center of the storm, their expressions a mix of guilt, shame, and disbelief. Lisa's hands trembled at her sides, her eyes wide with tears that threatened to spill over. Mark's jaw tightened, his gaze fixed on the floor as if unable to meet the accusing eyes that now scrutinized him. "You have some nerve," one guest muttered under their breath, their voice barely audible amidst the charged atmosphere. Others approached me cautiously, offering words of support and sympathy. They expressed shock at the depth of Lisa and Mark's betrayal, assuring me of their unwavering support in the aftermath of the public exposure. "Jack, I had no idea," one friend said, shaking their head in disbelief. "I'm so sorry you're going through this." I nodded in acknowledgement, my focus still fixed on Lisa and Mark. The confrontation I had orchestrated was not just about exposing their affair. It was about reclaiming my dignity, asserting control over a situation that had left me feeling powerless. Lisa's voice broke the tense silence. "Jack, please," she pleaded, her voice hoarse with emotion. "Let's talk about this in private. This isn't the place." "No, Lisa," I interrupted, my voice firm. "This is exactly the place. You wanted to betray me in our home, in our bed. Now you face the consequences in front of those who once trusted you." Her words faltered, her shoulders slumping in defeat. The reality of the situation seemed to settle upon her like a heavy burden, the weight of her actions finally sinking in. Mark stepped forward, his voice strained. "Jack, I'm sorry. I never meant for any of this." "Save it," I cut him off, my tone sharp with contempt. "You're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you got caught." The room fell silent again, tension thickening the air as the confrontation reached its peak. I knew there would be fallout from my actions, relationships strained, alliances shattered, but I couldn't bring myself to care. This was about justice, about holding Lisa and Mark accountable for their betrayal. The evening stretched on, the atmosphere tense and uncomfortable. Guests began to trickle out, leaving behind a lingering sense of unease. Some approached Lisa and Mark cautiously, offering hesitant words of sympathy or condemnation. Others avoided them altogether, unable to reconcile the image of the couple they thought they knew with the reality now laid bare. I remained resolute, my resolve unyielding in the face of the chaos I had unleashed. This was not the end, but a turning point, a moment of reckoning that would shape the course of my future and theirs. As the last guest departed, leaving behind a quiet emptiness in their wake, I turned away from Lisa and Mark. The public exposure had served its purpose, but the journey toward closure was far from over. There were still legal proceedings to navigate, loose ends to tie, and a future to rebuild from the ruins of betrayal. In the aftermath of the public exposure, the fallout was swift and far-reaching. Rumors spread like wildfire through our social circle, amplifying the shock and disbelief that had rippled through the room that evening. Friends and acquaintances took sides, some offering support, while others distanced themselves from the scandal. For Lisa and Mark, the consequences were immediate and profound. Social media buzzed with speculation and judgment, fueled by whispers and snippets of the slideshow that had exposed their affair. Comments ranged from sympathy for me to condemnation for them, creating a virtual battleground of opinions and accusations. Lisa's once active social media accounts became a battleground of their own. Messages poured in, some from friends expressing shock and confusion, others from acquaintances offering their unsolicited opinions and judgments. The private messages were equally divided, with some expressing support and sympathy for me, while others criticized Lisa and Mark harshly. Mark, too, faced a barrage of messages and calls. His social media profiles were flooded with messages of disappointment and betrayal, some from mutual friends who struggled to reconcile the person they knew with the one exposed in the slideshow. As the initial shock began to wear off, legal proceedings loomed on the horizon. I had filed for divorce swiftly after the confrontation, armed with the evidence I had meticulously gathered. The paperwork had been served, setting in motion a process that would officially sever the ties that had bound us together for over 2 decades. Lisa and Mark hired their own legal representation, but the weight of the evidence stacked against them was undeniable. The photos, text messages, and eyewitness accounts from the party would be scrutinized in the courtroom, each piece of evidence a testament to their betrayal. In quieter moments, amidst the chaos of public scrutiny and legal preparations, doubt crept in. Had I gone too far? Was the public exposure and the ensuing fallout truly worth the pain and humiliation it had caused? But each time I wavered, the memory of Lisa and Mark's betrayal surged to the forefront of my mind. The images of them together in our bed, the whispered confidences and shared intimacies that had been revealed as lies. Anger replaced doubt, fueling my determination to see the legal proceedings through to the end. Meanwhile, the once shared life I had known with Lisa lay in tatters. The house echoed with emptiness, a stark reminder of the life we had built and the future that had been torn apart by their deception. Every corner held memories tainted by their betrayal, leaving me grappling with a sense of loss and betrayal that threatened to overwhelm me. But amidst the chaos and heartache, a glimmer of hope began to emerge. I had taken control of the narrative, refusing to be a victim of their betrayal. The legal battle ahead would be arduous, but it offered the promise of closure, a chance to rebuild my life on my own terms, free from the shadows of their infidelity. As I navigated the tumultuous aftermath, I clung to that hope like a lifeline, steeling myself for the challenges that lay ahead. The immediate fallout of the public exposure had set the stage for what was to come, a journey toward healing, justice, and ultimately, redemption. Weeks passed in a haze of legal consultations, emotional turmoil, and the relentless scrutiny of public opinion. Amidst the chaos, a crucial confrontation loomed, the face-to-face meeting I had been both dreading and anticipating since the night of the public exposure. I arranged to meet Lisa in a neutral setting, a quiet cafe on the outskirts of town. The air was thick with tension as we sat across from each other, the weight of unspoken words hanging heavily between us. "I didn't expect to see you," Lisa began tentatively, her voice barely above a whisper. Her eyes were red and swollen, evidence of the emotional toll the events had taken on her. "I needed to talk to you," I replied evenly, my voice betraying none of the turmoil raging within me. "To understand why." Lisa flinched at my words, her hands trembling where they rested on the table. "Jack, I can't begin to excuse what I did, she started, her voice breaking. I was lost, confused. I felt like you were always distant, always busy, I finished for her, my tone laced with bitterness. Is that supposed to justify sleeping with my best friend? Betraying everything we had built together? No, she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. No, it doesn't. I know I hurt you, Jack. I know I broke your trust in the worst possible way, and I'm so sorry. Her apology hung in the air, heavy with remorse and regret. For a moment, I considered the depth of her pain, the anguish that mirrored my own. But the wounds were too fresh, the betrayal too raw. You're sorry you got caught, I said finally, my voice cold. Sorry for the consequences, but not for what you did. Lisa's face crumpled, her tears flowing freely now. That's not true, she insisted, her voice desperate. I regret it every day. I hate myself for what I've done to you, to us. You didn't hate yourself when you were with him, I shot back, my anger flaring despite my efforts to remain composed. You didn't think twice about how it would destroy our marriage, our family. The cafe seemed to close in around us, the silence between us heavy with unspoken accusations and shattered dreams. I struggled to find the words to convey the depth of my pain, the betrayal that had severed the ties that had bound us together for so long. I don't know if I'll ever forgive you, I admitted finally, my voice barely above a whisper. But I need closure, Lisa. I need to understand why. Lisa reached across the table, her hand trembling as she reached for mine. Jack, please, she pleaded, her voice thick with emotion. I know I can't undo what I've done, but I want to try to make things right, if you'll let me. I pulled my hand away gently, unable to meet her gaze. I don't know if that's possible, I replied honestly, my heart heavy with uncertainty, but I need time to figure things out. The confrontation had brought no resolution, no closure to the turmoil that consumed me. As I left the cafe, the weight of Lisa's words and my own unanswered questions weighed heavily on my shoulders. The personal confrontation had laid bare the fractured remains of our marriage, leaving me grappling with a sense of loss and betrayal that seemed insurmountable. But amidst the pain and heartache, a small seed of hope began to take root. Perhaps in time, I would find the answers I sought, the closure that would allow me to move forward, no longer defined by the wreckage of their betrayal. The weeks following my confrontation with Lisa were a whirlwind of legal proceedings and emotional turmoil as the divorce process unfolded. Armed with the evidence of Lisa and Mark's betrayal, my lawyer navigated the complexities of the legal system with precision and determination. The initial shock of serving divorce papers had sent ripples through our social circle, intensifying the scrutiny and judgment that surrounded Lisa and Mark. Friends and acquaintances took sides, some offering unwavering support, while others distanced themselves from the scandal that had rocked our community. Lisa and Mark's legal team responded swiftly, contesting some aspects of the divorce proceedings while negotiating others. Custody arrangements for our children became a point of contention, each side arguing passionately for what they believed was in the best interest of our family. Emotions ran high as we navigated the division of assets accumulated over years of marriage. The house we had called home, investments, and personal belongings all became bargaining chips in a process that sought to untangle the intertwined lives we had once shared. Throughout it all, I remained steadfast in my determination to hold Lisa and Mark accountable for their betrayal. The evidence I had meticulously gathered served as a powerful tool, validating my decision to seek justice through legal channels. In the courtroom, tensions reached a boiling point as the proceedings unfolded. Witnesses testified to the extent of Lisa and Mark's affair, their words echoing with the weight of truth and betrayal. The judge listened intently, weighing each piece of evidence against the backdrop of legal precedent and personal ethics. Lisa's demeanor shifted during the proceedings, her initial defiance giving way to moments of vulnerability and regret. Tears flowed freely as she recounted the events that had led to our marriage's unraveling, her voice cracking with the weight of her remorse. Mark, too, faced the consequences of his actions. His testimony was marked by moments of silence and evasion, his gaze often drifting to the floor as he struggled to reconcile the person he had become with the man he once believed himself to be. As the divorce proceedings progressed, a sense of closure began to take root within me. The legal battle had been grueling, but it offered the promise of a future untethered from the pain and betrayal that had defined the final years of our marriage. Outside the courtroom, life continued in a semblance of normalcy. I focused on rebuilding my life, forging new routines and connections that offered a sense of stability amidst the chaos of divorce. Friends and family offered unwavering support, reminding me that I was not alone in my journey toward healing. But the wounds of betrayal ran deep, their scars a constant reminder of the tumultuous path that had brought me to this point. As the divorce proceedings drew to a close, I knew that the journey toward closure was far from over, a journey that would require time, introspection, and a commitment to rebuilding my life on my own terms. With the divorce finalized and the legal battles behind me, I stood at a crossroads, faced with the daunting task of rebuilding my life from the ashes of betrayal and heartache. The road ahead stretched uncertainly before me, but I was determined to forge a path toward healing and renewal. The first step in rebuilding my life was reclaiming my sense of self. I immersed myself in activities that brought me joy and fulfillment, rediscovering hobbies that had fallen by the wayside during the turmoil of my marriage. Photography, hiking, and volunteering at a local shelter became outlets for the emotions that still simmered beneath the surface. Surrounded by supportive friends and family, I leaned on their unwavering presence as I navigated the challenges of starting anew. Their encouragement bolstered my spirits, reminding me that I was not defined by the betrayal that had shattered my world. Professional endeavors became a focus as I redirected my energy toward career advancement and personal growth. I threw myself into projects at work, seeking solace in the familiarity of routine and the satisfaction of achieving goals that once seemed out of reach. But amidst the busyness of rebuilding, moments of solitude brought introspection and reflection. I grappled with the lingering wounds of betrayal, confronting the pain and anger that threatened to overshadow my progress. Therapy became a lifeline, a safe space to explore my emotions, untangle the complexities of grief, and chart a course toward forgiveness and acceptance. The process of rebuilding extended beyond personal endeavors to include the redefinition of relationships and social circles. I forged new connections while nurturing existing friendships that had withstood the test of adversity. Trust, once shattered, began to cautiously rebuild, fostering a sense of community and belonging that had eluded me in the aftermath of betrayal. As time passed, I found moments of peace amidst the chaos of rebuilding. The scars of betrayal remained, a testament to the resilience that had carried me through dark days and uncertain nights. But with each step forward, I embraced the opportunity to rewrite my story, a story of resilience, redemption, and the unwavering determination to reclaim my happiness and sense of self-worth. The journey toward rebuilding my life was far from linear, marked by setbacks and moments of doubt. Yet, with each challenge overcome and each milestone achieved, I emerged stronger and more resilient than before, ready to embrace the future with renewed hope and a steadfast commitment to living authentically on my own terms. As the months passed and I immersed myself in the process of rebuilding, a sense of clarity began to emerge, a newfound perspective that allowed me to embrace the possibilities of new beginnings. One of the most significant aspects of my journey was rediscovering my identity outside of the confines of marriage and betrayal. I delved deeper into self-discovery, exploring passions and interests that had long been overshadowed. Writing, which had always been a solace during difficult times, became a therapeutic outlet for processing emotions and reflecting on the lessons learned. With a renewed sense of purpose, I embarked on a journey of personal growth and exploration. I enrolled in workshops and seminars, expanding my knowledge and skills in areas that piqued my curiosity. Each new experience offered an opportunity for growth, challenging me to step outside my comfort zone and embrace the unfamiliar. At the heart of my new beginning was a commitment to healing from the wounds of betrayal. Therapy continued to be an integral part of my journey, providing a safe space to confront lingering emotions and cultivate resilience. Through introspection and self-care, I began to cultivate a deeper understanding of forgiveness, not as an exoneration of past wrongs, but as a release from the burden of anger and resentment. Alongside personal growth, I nurtured meaningful connections with friends and loved ones who had stood by me through the darkest days. Their unwavering support and empathy served as a source of strength, reinforcing the importance of community and shared experiences in navigating life's challenges. As I embraced the possibilities of new beginnings, I also approached relationships with a newfound sense of caution and discernment. Trust, once shattered, was rebuilt slowly and deliberately, guided by the lessons learned from past experiences. I forged connections based on mutual respect and authenticity, prioritizing emotional honesty and communication in all interactions. Professionally, I seized opportunities for advancement and reinvention, leveraging my skills and expertise to pursue meaningful career goals. The challenges I had faced had sharpened my resilience and determination, driving me to exceed expectations and contribute positively to my professional community. In moments of reflection, I marveled at the transformation that had taken place, a journey marked by resilience, introspection, and the unwavering belief in the possibility of new beginnings. The scars of betrayal remained, a reminder of the challenges overcome and the strength gained along the way. As I looked toward the future with optimism and hope, I embraced the uncertainty of what lay ahead, a future shaped by resilience, authenticity, and the enduring pursuit of happiness and fulfillment. New beginnings awaited, each offering an opportunity to rewrite my story and embrace the journey of self-discovery and growth that lay ahead. As I sit here reflecting on the tumultuous journey that brought me to this point, I am struck by the profound transformation that has unfolded in my life. The wounds of betrayal have healed, leaving behind scars that serve as a testament to the resilience and strength I discovered within myself. The journey through heartache and loss was arduous, marked by moments of despair and uncertainty. Yet through it all, I emerged stronger and more resilient than I ever thought possible. The challenges I faced forced me to confront my deepest fears and insecurities, guiding me toward a path of self-discovery and personal growth. I have learned invaluable lessons along the way, lessons about the complexities of trust, the fragility of relationships, and the power of forgiveness. Forgiveness, not as a means of absolving others of their wrongdoing, but as a liberation from the weight of anger and resentment that threatened to consume me. Through therapy and introspection, I found clarity and peace amidst the chaos of rebuilding. I reclaimed my sense of identity and purpose, embracing passions and interests that had long been overshadowed by the demands of marriage and betrayal. Writing became a therapeutic outlet, a way to process emotions, articulate thoughts, and share my journey with others who may be navigating similar challenges. In rediscovering myself, I forged meaningful connections with friends and loved ones who stood by me through the darkest days. Their unwavering support and empathy provided a lifeline, reminding me that I was never alone in my journey toward healing and renewal. Professionally, I leveraged the resilience and determination cultivated through adversity to pursue meaningful career goals and professional growth. Each accomplishment reaffirmed my belief in the power of perseverance and resilience, propelling me toward a future filled with possibilities and potential. As I look toward the future with optimism and hope, I carry with me the lessons learned and the strength gained from overcoming adversity. The scars of betrayal may linger, but they serve as a testament to my resilience and capacity for growth. The journey toward healing and renewal is ongoing, a continuous evolution marked by self-discovery, forgiveness, and the unwavering pursuit of happiness and fulfillment. I embrace each new beginning with gratitude and determination, knowing that I have emerged from the storm stronger and more resilient than ever before. And so, as I close this chapter of my life, I do so with a sense of closure and peace. The journey through betrayal and heartache has transformed me in ways I could never have imagined, leaving me grateful for the lessons learned and the strength gained along the way. For in the end, it is not the challenges we face that define us, but how we rise above them and embrace the journey toward healing, renewal, and new beginnings.